their response, maybe their emotional or internal response to Queenie and the girls may be different. What they see and observe is virtually the same. So this, you can imagine, this is a small town. The A&P, and if you don't know what an A&P is, it's like a small supermarket. It's not quite the size of the Vons or Albertsons or Ralph's. And it's a store that's a lot more popular back in the Midwest, the South, and apparently the Northeast. I don't really know of any A&Ps out here. I could be wrong, but anyway, small supermarket. So Sammy is a clerk, and these three girls, and again, this is the early '60s, so you can imagine you've got the small town, you've got the '60s, which, you know, at the very beginning is still quite conservative, hasn't really broken into the free love and the Woodstock era yet. So people, especially in small towns even today, have a lot more of a conservative attitude toward things, higher morals, if you will. So these three girls walk into the A&P. It is summertime, but it's not the beach, as the store manager notes. So they walk in, they're in their bathing suits, and everyone's watching. And Sammy's observations about everyone else's reaction is very funny. But he, as well as his fellow clerk, and especially the butcher in the back, we'll get to that in a minute, but they're all sizing up the physical attributes and flaws of each girl and gawking. So Sammy and his fellow clerk, they make some slightly inappropriate comments to each other. It's when you read the difference in age and marital status, Sammy's 19 and his fellow clerk is, I think he's 21 or 22, but he's married, and he's making an inappropriate comment about the girls. Now, you could, virtually forgive a teenage boy who's single and makes a comment, but a guy who's married and older, who should be an example, should probably keep it zipped. But they make inappropriate comments, so that tells you what their initial reaction is to the girls. The difference, though, is as the story progresses, they have really only come into the store for one thing. Queenie's mother has sent her to the store to get some herring snacks. So at one point they're walking near the back. The butcher, McMahon, is back there. They talk to him. Sammy, of course, can't hear what they're saying, but he describes what he sees. And they go to the section, get their herring snacks. They come up to check them out. And the manager, Langle, comes up and reprimands the girls for wearing swimsuits in his store. He says, next time you come in here, dress more appropriately. Something to that effect. Everybody's watching. There's a line of customers over on the next aisle, and everyone is just stopped. They're gaping, jaws in their laps, that sort of thing. People are wanting to hear every word of this confrontation, so they're making very little noise. And this is a turning point for Sammy, because up until now, he's just describing these girls as these gorgeous little young things that have come into his store. Queenie, of course, being the most beautiful. One girl being a little chubbier than the other two, shorter, some puffy lips, a brand new swimsuit. He knows that it's probably the first time that she's worn it, because she's tan everywhere except for her middle. So anyway, all these very subtle, very detailed observations that he makes about the girls, but they really do focus in on their physical attributes. The third girl is taller. He says she is the kind of girl that other girls would find striking or attractive, but who doesn't quite make it, which is why the other girls like her, because she doesn't provide competition. Sammy doesn't say this in the story, but you and I know this is what he means. So those are the three girls, but then, because he sees Queenie as sort of the leader of the pack, the one who's walking straight ahead, and you know this to be true, maybe you've seen this in high school or experienced it, you have a clique, you have a group of friends, but then you have the leader of the group. And this is the person everyone else kind of fumbles all over themselves to follow after. They're always looking at that person to know what to do next. And especially in adolescence, people are, kids tend to be a lot more unsure of themselves. So they're looking for guidance. They're looking for somebody that they can emulate themselves after. So these two girls are walking behind Queenie. Queenie's walking in front. Queenie's looking straight ahead. And she's walking with straight shoulders. She knows where she's going. She's completely confident. The other two girls are her little followers. Sammy's talking about this. I want to stop for a minute here and just read one part of this story that I think reveals Updike's genius in writing. It's one thing just to tell a story and just to let the whole thing bear itself out using fairly common language. But listen to this. This is actually right after L'Engle has reprimanded the girls. He says, "Girls, this isn't the beach." And if you're following along, it's, I think, on the 4th page of the story. Yeah. Okay, "Girls, this isn't the beach." This is L'Engle talking. "Queenie blushes, though maybe it's just a brush of sunburn I was noticing for the first time now that she was so close." Queenie's gotten in his line. "My mother asked me to pick up a jar of herring snacks." Her voice kind of startled me, the way voices do when you see the people first, coming out so flat and dumb, yet kind of tony too, the way it tickled over pickup and snacks. All of a sudden, I slid right down her voice into her living room. Her father and the other men were standing around in ice cream coats and bow ties, and the women were in sandals picking up herring snacks on toothpicks off a big plate, and they were all holding drinks the color of water with olives and sprigs of mint in them. The sentence that really grabs me is, all of a sudden I slid right down her voice into her living room. There's so many different ways you can say that, but that's genius writing. That's the kind of writing that makes Updike, that puts him head and shoulders above other writers. How else could you say this? What's a normal, average way of saying this? The way she talked made me think that her family was rich and uppity. Maybe so. That's a very boring, dull way of saying it. But to write the words, all of a sudden I slid right down her voice into her living room. You know exactly what he means, but it's just so